Hey guys, it's Paradise, and as massive Dragon Age fans ever since Origins, we've been patiently waiting and waiting for any, and I literally mean any, new details on the next game of the series. We've always kept you guys up to date as new crumbs of information have been released, and now with a brand new trailer that really got the internet talking to a massive gameplay showcase, it was a no-brainer when EA asked to sponsor us for a video. So from going over the smallest crumbs of details in various blog posts and updates over the last couple years, to now having a veritable feast of new things to discuss, let's jump into Dragon Age: The Veilguard. If you aren't familiar with Dragon Age, it's a single-player fantasy RPG experience where you create and customize your own player character, a hero called Rook. There's 3 classes to choose from: a warrior, rogue, and mage, with a variety of specializations to branch into later, and a bunch of factions to pick as your background. You'll play in the world of Thedas, a vibrant land of rugged wilderness, treacherous labyrinths, and glittering cities, such as the magical city of Minrathous, which we got a very good look at in this new gameplay. In this addition to the series, fellowship will be a central theme, and your party of companions will play a major role, ultimately leading to the fate of Thedas. So we will need to rally a team together, forge relationships with them, and become the leader for this new group, known as the Veilguard, hence the name of the game. With the previous name of the game being Dreadwolf and it now being called Veilguard, it looks like it's tied to our group of heroes protecting the Veil, which is a sort of magical barrier that separates the world of Thedas with the Fade, which is a metaphysical realm, sometimes referred to as the Well of Souls, which is where spirits and demons reside. The Veil protects the world from these entities flooding into Thedas, and Solus, or Fen Harel, the Dreadwolf, our game's antagonist and elven god of betrayal or rebellion, wants to destroy this Veil to return the world back to how it was a long time in the past. And as we saw in the newest gameplay reveal, even if many will die in the process, Solus is willing to take this chance. They officially describe Veilguard as expanding upon the pillars the series is best known for, with rich storytelling, fluid and strategic combat, companions, and where your choices matter. The release window for the game is currently set to fall of 2024 this year for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, S, and PC. Now, companions have always been a major feature in Dragon Age games, making up the members of your party, each having distinct personalities, their own specializations, and stories. When the newest trailer revealed, many were upset with the change in the art style and tone, giving off more of a bright and cheery attitude to what is usually a dark fantasy world setting. Many referred to it as coming off like a hero shooter, which honestly it kind of did. However, with the gameplay reveal, we did get to see the actual gameplay and almost the beginning of the game, which was definitely much darker and serious in tone, which was a big relief for many fans. So it seems like that first trailer just kind of missed the mark for what fans were expecting from their beloved series, where they've been waiting so long for a new title. The trailer itself is, however, a very good sneak peek into each of the game's companion characters, so let's go over each of these new companions that will be accompanying us in Veilguard. First up, we have a returning character from Dragon Age Inquisition. It's Harding, the Dwarven Scout. Officially described as having a big heart, a positive outlook, and a ready bow, as well as unexpected magical powers, which is news to returning fans as previously she didn't have any magical powers. We also got a better look at her now more experienced and somewhat grittier persona in the gameplay reveal, and it's nice to see her character development come a long way since Inquisition. We then have Neve Gallus, a human ice mage, a reputable private detective and member of Tevinter's rebellious Shadow Dragons, a faction that fights to end slavery in Tevinter. Neve is a cynic but fights for a better future, and you might find it interesting to know that she did appear in Dragon Age media before, both in the Tevinter Knights anthology, as well as the Missing comic series. Interestingly, she uses a dwarven crafted metal prosthetic leg, which we got a glimpse of in the trailer and gameplay reveal. She definitely comes off as a capable companion in the reveal, with somewhat of a snake theme to her golden belt and very cool looking staff. And then we have one that stood out to me the most. It's Lucanis Dellamorte. He's the Mage Killer. He's a poised and pragmatic assassin, trained since he was a child and descends from the bloodline of the House of Antivan Crows. This is a renowned criminal organization known throughout Thedas. Considering we create our own custom Rook, it will be very intriguing to see how interactions with him will go, but as an assassin of the Crows, it could just all come down to the money, so I can't wait to see how it plays out. And it's good to know he did also appear in the Tevinter Knights anthology. And next up is Bellara, who we know very little about. She's a Dalish elf rogue and a Veil Jumper, obsessed with uncovering the ancient secrets of the universe. Veil Jumpers were first introduced in the Missing comic series to protect Arlathan Forest, and she's said to be creative and romantic, but with her veil jumping powers and being a Dalish elf, could she possibly have ties or links to Solus? We just don't know. Also, the tentacle monster that grabs her out of that portal is pretty gross. And then we have Emmrich Volkarin, a human mage necromancer of Nevarra's Morn Watch. This is a group who are keepers and caretakers of the dead. He's so skilled in these dark arts that he actually has a skeletal assistant called Manfred. It's great to see the confirmation and return of the necromancer specialization coming back from Inquisition, and this was kind of like a replacement for the blood mage specialization, given that it is quite a lore-breaking thing to play in the Dragon Age universe, but I do have to say the blood mage was my absolute favorite to play in Origins and Dragon Age 2. I wish we could have it back. Emmrich does actually appear in Tevinter Nights as well as the short story The Flame Eternal, and despite what you may think about necromancers, he's actually quite a bookworm, very talented, and does come off as quite pleasant. And then we have another one of my favorites. It's Davrin, a Dalish elf warrior and bold and charming Grey Warden, who is said to have made a name for himself as a monster hunter. Grey Wardens are an order of warriors dedicated to fighting Darkspawn, which are soulless monsters that dwell underground and occasionally mass together following an archdemon to attack the surface. Grey Wardens were a major plot point in Dragon Age Origins, and it's great to see them return in Veilguard, especially as a companion character, similar to Blackwall in Inquisition, although there are complications as to Blackwall's true status as a Grey Warden. Interestingly, this time Davrin seems to have a friendly baby griffin with him that looks like it aids him in combat in the trailer, and I really cannot wait to learn more about this. And finally, we have Taash, a dragon hunter. She's allied with the Lords of Fortune who live for adventure and to hunt treasure. As you may expect from a dragon hunter, she doesn't mind taking risks, and I personally love her crystal horn and scale armor. To be honest, the dragons in Dragon Age are always an extremely fun and cool part of the series, so I really can't wait to learn more about her and her reasoning for basically hunting down dragons completely solo. And now let's take a closer look at what we can do with our player character, the Rook. According to many media outlets that got to see behind closed doors presentations, when it comes to creating your own Rook, you will have the choice of 6 different factions to choose from, which seem to coincide with the background factions of each of the companion members. So although not confirmed, it looks like we can choose between the iconic Grey Wardens, the deadly Antivan Crows, the new Shadow Dragons, the daring Lords of Fortune, the somber Mornwatch, and maybe even the new Veil Jumpers. We can actually see a bit of this in the gameplay reveal, where Rook is created as a human rogue with the Shadow Dragon faction. This actually gives him extra dialogue choices at a few different points in the gameplay. Personally, I cannot see myself choosing anything other than Grey Warden, but what are you thinking of going for your first playthrough? On top of this, various choices in Inquisition will have impacts on Veilguard. So when making your character, you can pick some major key plot points that will impact how Veilguard actually begins. Furthermore, each of the companions are meant to be available as romance options, including Harding, which was everyone's favorite scout from Inquisition, who was previously not a true romance option but could be flirted with in Inquisition. Our choices are also meant to be very impactful and can actually determine the fate of our companions, even resulting in them dying, and there's set to be alternative branching storylines, mysteries to solve, and plenty of optional content to experience. But let's take a closer look at that massive gameplay reveal. There's some very notable changes to the Dragon Age formula which may have fans surprised. The gameplay reveal begins in the city of Minrathous, the capital of the Tevinter Imperium, and it is the largest city in Thedas. It's good to note that unlike Ferelden, where mages are feared and locked away in Circle of Magi towers in the previous games, in Minrathous the mages rule supreme. They literally are raised and floating above everyone else with magic, as a sort of elite class at the top of society. In the gameplay, we can see the city quickly become overrun by demons as Solus's ritual begins and the veil starts to weaken. It's here that we meet Harding and get a look at the traditional dialogue options which shape our character's personality, and you can use this later on to pick important story choices. After this, we get geared up and have our first look at the new combat system. It seems the game is much more of an action RPG this time around, with an emphasis on combining light and heavy attacks, dodges and parries. Importantly, we can no longer directly control our party members, but instead we have an ability wheel to issue commands to them. This wasn't available early in the game, which is where this reveal took place, but we do have this image from various media outlets that got to see the previews, with a more fleshed out ability wheel, and here we can see 3 warrior abilities, as well as various ways to issue commands to your party, including specific abilities, which looks like they get highlighted when a combo opportunity can be triggered. Personally, I do love action RPG games, so I think I will get on well with this type of combat, but I also feel like it is a big departure from the more strategic Dragon Age formula, previously allowing for complete individual party control, as well as the full combat pause and even the isometric battlefield view where you could plan out your strategy and approach to combat. As confirmed by previewers, the ability wheel will also show you extra details about some enemies, as well as of course your own abilities, and it looks like you can only have 3 active abilities for yourself at any given time, and then 3 for each of your companions, giving a total of 9 active abilities across your whole party. As an Origin fan, I would much prefer to have access to far more abilities than just 3, but I will go into this open-minded because when we see the level 1 Rogue use his power, it absolutely destroys anything it's used on, so it seems like the abilities might be quite strong and impactful. We can also see our health bar in the lower left corner with our number of potions next to it, and these look to be replenished when destroying the green pots, and these pots are very plentiful throughout the gameplay, so healing shouldn't be too much of an issue. And talking of pots, during this combat section, some pots get smashed and then gold pop-ups appear in the corner, suggesting that there might be destroyable objects to give us extra loot or money. Another interesting combat element for the rogue specifically was the bow and arrow, which can be manually aimed similar to a third-person shooter, and the number of arrows then replenishes over time, so you can't exactly spam them, but they did regenerate fairly quickly. A little bit later, we got to see this pan across the skyline of Mimrathus with all its magical lights and the literal tears in the veil, which I just love to see, and there's a giant ice ball, which we start to make our way towards. After a couple of battles and a cool slide down some rubble, we then have another short fight where we get a closer look at our rogue's first ability called Static Strikes. This shoots 2 bolts of lightning forward, each dealing damage to the target and applying a weakness debuff. After this fight though, we finally get to meet Neve, who is clearly a very capable ice mage, hence all the frozen Venatori around her. And I will say I just love her overall style and her staff is pretty cool. But then we make our way to Solus by traveling through an Alluvian gate. This is an ancient elvish magical mirror that acts as a portal. Here the party find themselves in Arlathan Forest, named after the capital of the ancient elven empire, which is no longer around, except, well, for Solus. We can see him mid-ritual as he is tearing the veil down, and we see the party fight through demons to get closer and stop him. There's 2 combat mechanics I wanted to point out. The first is a white glow around your character's head, which will turn yellow just as you're about to get hit. This is like your spidey sense, and you can dodge just as it goes yellow to avoid getting hit. Then you can also see a line that connects an enemy to your player, showing a projectile is about to get fired at you. You can either dodge or parry this to deflect it back at the enemy. And then we have our first proper boss fight against a pride demon, which has a new kind of look compared to previous titles. This fight really shows off the vibrant visuals and effects, as well as some more intricate mechanics that will keep us on our toes in combat, such as a ton of ground AoEs to dodge showing up in red circles, while the pride demon is still attacking or shooting projectiles at you. After a long-fought battle, the demon is finally defeated, and Varric asks the party to buy him some time so he can try and talk Solus down. And well, you just need to see this next bit.
Hey, Chuckles. Hope I'm not interrupting.
The veil is a wound inflicted upon this world. It must be healed.
By drowning the world in demons?
I have taken precautions to minimize the damage, Varric.
Minimize the... People are dying right now. You need to listen. Please.
People are always dying. It is what they do.
There is a little to unpack here because Varric and Solus are old friends, both being companions in Inquisition. Varric truly believes he can reason with Solus, but isn't getting anywhere and so threatens him by pulling out his beloved crossbow Bianca. This crossbow, by the way, has been with Varric since the very first Dragon Age game, and it's no secret that Bianca is kind of like his pride and joy and has a lot of sentimental value. Despite the pleas to Solus though, he does turn and with a simple stare destroys the bow into pieces, and we can see the sadness in Varric's eyes as this happens. Solus then coldly remarks that people are always dying, it's what they do, and this shows his detachment from mortals, which is a fairly consistent theme with his character, although this takes it to a whole new level. It's important to note though, Solus is very powerful. He could have completely outright killed Varric instead of his crossbow if he wanted to, but he chose not to do this and instead to de-escalate it by disarming him. So maybe all hope isn't lost for Solus, but he is definitely committed to this path despite the consequences. The party then devises a plan to knock down the statues as the only way to stop the ritual, but someone must stay behind and keep the demons at bay. This is a great example of what I assume to be a major story choice, possibly resulting in the death of a companion who stays behind alone. You can also see the approval system return, with Harding greatly approving of your choice to pick her to join you. After toppling the towers, we then see Solus's ritual interrupted, the veil completely pierced open, and two rather interesting looking demons, entities, or gods appearing. Some are speculating that this could be two elven gods that were sealed away and betrayed by Solus, but for now, only time will tell. So what do you think of all of this, and did you spot anything in the trailer that I might have missed out on? Tell us your thoughts down below and make sure to subscribe because we're going to keep you up to date with all things Dragon Age as and when more comes out.